All right.
This is the Doug Gottlieb Show. This is America's longest-running afternoon drive sports radio show, broadcasting live from the studios of Fox Sports Radio.
Bang, bang, won't stop till we're legends.
Here's Doug Gottlieb.
Boom! What up, America? Doug Gottlieb Show, Fox Sports Radio. Back in the greatest city in all of the world, the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California. Welcome in if you're watching us streaming live, or even when we rerun this thing on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram. We can't put this on Instagram, can we? Like, yeah, we should be able to IG it. Don't give me this, I don't know. Elijah's our social media coordinator. Coordinate. You got to coordinate. Welcome in. We got a lot to get to. The head coach of the number one ranked team in the country. And I love this, how narratives become facts is amazing in our country. It's like we're going to get to later on. We'll get to a little bit with Tony Bennett, Virginia's head coach. But there's all these scandals in college and youth basketball. And so the NBA is going to react and possibly expand the G League. And I'm not saying that there wasn't 4 assistants arrested in an FBI probe. I'm not saying that there aren't people breaking rules. But before we convict an entire sport, let's catch our breath and go, right now they got 4 coaches that have been indicted. There's 9 people total. There's 351 Division I programs. By my math, I don't know when something becomes systematic, but I'm struggling to find a systematic issue. Doesn't mean there aren't issues. There aren't issues within the system, but systematic, I'm not ready to get there yet. The other narrative in college basketball is we are a week away from essentially our NCAA field being set and a weekend, 2 days away from having our first 4 play-in games. For a week and a day, actually. Is there are no dominant teams in college basketball. Is 28 wins and 2 losses dominant? All right, what if you're in the ACC and you have 28 wins and 2 losses? What if you're the unanimous MVP after the regular season is over? Unanimous number 1 team in the country after the regular season is over. And you're 28-2, and you play in the ACC. Again, the narrative is anybody can win this thing, and there's probably some truth to it. There is, there will be, feels almost certain that there will be a topsy-turvy NCAA tournament. But Virginia's 28-2, and they won the ACC. If that's not dominant, I'm not really sure what is. Tony Bennett, head coach of the Wahoos, going to join us upcoming in about 10 minutes. Let's get to the NFL Draft Combine, where people freak out about 40 times, and some matter, right? Some matter because some guys they look faster on tape than they do in person. Some guys are only fast at the combine. A quarterback speed is not really that important, although I do think a quarterback has to have good feet. A quarterback's throwing, it's relatively important. But quarterback generally, if you ask NFL people, and I have, they will tell you that the quarterback position, the evaluation of the quarterback position is neck up. Now, when you hear neck up, you think it's just about how book smart you are, how smart you are, recall. And there is some of that. There's emotional intelligence, social intelligence, football intelligence, and downright intelligence. And so while we make fun of some of the ridiculous questions and answers that are reported to have come out of these combine meetings between players and GMs and presidents of football operations, the fact is that in the NFL, that meeting, that whiteboard session, that discussion about football, it's not more important than how you throw and how you move and how big you are. But can we be honest and say it's as important? And so there's this discussion about Lamar Jackson. And apparently no teams have asked him about playing wide receiver. There were some teams that requested he ran the wide receiver routes or that he did some of the wide receiver in terms of training. He didn't run the 40. And I find this entire exercise fascinating because here's the problem. Lamar Jackson, based on what I've been told from two different general managers, and they both said almost the exact same thing, was they had Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Mason Rudolph, and Lamar Jackson all in front of their football group. And both men to a man who are in the quarterback market, whether they're first round or second round, they're in the quarterback market, and they talked to all of them. Said Baker Mayfield has a ridiculously high football IQ. Josh Rosen's right there. So is Sam Darnold. Darnold seemed to control both rooms a little bit better than everybody else. And guys, just you come away feeling nice, feeling good. Like he just has that's something that quarterbacks have. Mason Rudolph's just a smidge behind, but generally pretty good. Rudolph's the guy who they don't think has a strong enough arm or big enough hands, even though he looks the part, 6'5" Greek god type looking kid from Oklahoma State. Josh Allen checks every box except not just the accuracy when he throws in a game, but he's behind in terms of his whiteboard work, his level of aptitude, and overall football intelligence. And then there's Lamar Jackson, who's a good step or two behind even that of Josh Allen, demonstratively worse than Rosen, Darnold, and Mayfield. But you're not going to hear that because you know what no one wants to be called? No one wants to be called a racist. Now, if you want to tell me that the NFL had a racial bias against black quarterbacks for 30, 40, 50 years, I can only agree with you. I mean, it seemed dumbfounding that Warren Moon had to go to the CFL. I don't know enough about what Warren Moon did to improve when he was in the CFL, but Warren Moon, he wasn't a runner. He was a great drop back passer through an incredible ball. And I don't understand why he had to go to Canada. It was a different time and maybe he wasn't evaluated or didn't fit in the right system properly. But if you want to hold Warren Moon and other quarterbacks, Doug Williams, the famous how long have you been a black quarterback question against him, that's fine. I'm not saying historically in our country we weren't led by people that held racial biases against others. But all of these men in front offices in the NFL want to win. Okay? Russell Wilson's black. No one's ever questioned his aptitude because he appears to be able to handle the position. Even when you look at Jameis Winston, who I think, look, he's from the South, and so you might not understand the drawl. You might not understand some of the lingo. In terms of football IQ, everyone in the NFL, when they interviewed him, said off the charts. But the Lamar Jackson thing has taken on a completely different tone and feel and almost fear-based, anger-based assessment of Lamar Jackson. Sure, he's not particularly accurate in comparison to the others. He snaps it, he gets rid of quick, he's got a great arm, he can throw it way down the field. I think it's a massive mistake for him to not run the 40 in front of everybody because he would have blown everybody away. You'd be like, oh, that's why they want to be wide receiver because he's fast as a wide receiver, but he's played quarterback in college. But the level of football aptitude it takes to play quarterback in the NFL appears, at least to this point, to be beyond his skill set. But you're not going to hear that from people because they don't want to be called a racist. Whether that Lamar Jackson is or isn't quick enough to come up to speed eventually and be a starting quarterback has nothing to do with the fact that he's black. Sam Darnold being viewed ahead of him has nothing to do with the fact that he's white. It has to do with the fact that football guys put a pen in their hands in front of a whiteboard and said, hey, show us this, show us that, and he was behind the other guys. That's it. We have to make sure we open ourselves up to fairness of evaluation, and we try as hard as we can to not carry past instances of racial bias against people who are currently in jobs, just trying to figure out, all right, how do I make the right choice? By the way, Teddy Bridgewater, black quarterback out of Louisville, no one talked about him playing wide receiver. You know why? Because Teddy Bridgewater isn't as fast as Lamar Jackson. And he's apparently brighter in terms of football aptitude than Lamar Jackson. Not because the color of their skin, just because of the makeup of the human being.